Hey everyone, Bill Gino. I'm back with the Crest Network, and we're here to talk about managing a large loss. What kind of special skills do you need to be a project manager on a large loss? Well, unfortunately, the single biggest mistake that most managers make on a large loss is they go about it too fast. They get all excited that they're out there on a large loss. They get all excited that they have a nice job, that at the end of it is going to be a nice revenue producer for the company. And the biggest mistake that they make is by attacking it and going quickly. This is a perfect scenario where instead of going full speed, we need to slow down. We need to think quickly, but we need to act slowly. It's very important to understand that the success or failure of your entire project will hinge upon your actions that you take in the first 48 hours. You can't undo the mistakes that are made early. What are some of those simple mistakes? Failing to get a work authorization signed, failing to get your price list signed if you plan on using time and materials invoicing, failing to talk with the property owner or the business owner about the specific logistics that are going on, failure to communicate with the adjusters, assuming that you're in charge. Those are all factors that need to be played very, very carefully, making sure that we have enough resources. You know, on most residential jobs, we just say yes and we figure it out afterwards. Well, a lot of guys do the same thing on the commercial side, and that's a big, big mistake. If you say yes first and think you're going to figure it out afterwards, you might be in a lot of trouble. So let's go over the things we need to do. First and foremost, you need to have a plan. Make sure you properly scope out the loss. Don't jump in and start throwing equipment and doing demo until you have the entire scope of loss determined. So much about that scope of loss is going to hinge upon your ability to do the things you need to do. Remember, this isn't just a home where it's going to be 2 or 3 days of inconvenience for a homeowner, or maybe they can go stay with a friend. If it's a large enough structure and the severity of the damage is high enough, you could have a business that's out of work for weeks or months at a time. All of that has to be taken into account before you start any of that work. That's where we roll into the business or tenant issues. We need to understand BI, or business interruption. We need to understand what personal property liability is. Things like that are things we don't deal with all the time on a residential loss, but on the commercial loss, we have to factor them into not only our scope of loss, but how we're going to go about setting up a plan of action. We have to worry about communicating with the client and the carrier's reps at all time. Again, most times on the residential projects, we're kind of the boss. We're the guy who knows everything, so we make the rules. While that doesn't fly on the commercial project, you need to understand you're one piece of the process on commercial. You are not the process. And just by being one piece of the process means that you have other people and other ideas and other thoughts that you have to take into account. You have to be able to collaborate with, and you want to be able to form consensus. This is a team approach on large loss. And as the project manager, you're the linchpin. The owner might be there, the owner might be doing a lot of work, but you can't get the work done. And you can't be the focal point on that work until you make sure that you're doing right by the client and by the insurance company, because your owner will not get his money on the back end. Finally, logistics. There are a lot of things you need to worry about. Where and how we're going to position our equipment. Setting up a project office. We want you to be on site, but we want you to have all the abilities of the support you have from your home office on the job site. You need to have paperwork available. You need to have people doing the kind of input and documentation all day that you need. You're going to have people filling out forms just to hand out keys, or just to assign vehicles, or just to give out consumables. You're going to want to be tracking your equipment and your labor as best as possible on the job site. So you need to have a portable office set up. You're going to need that paperwork we talked about. Make sure you've got as much paperwork as possible so that you have control over the documentation on this job. Don't rely on someone else. Make sure you're the one doing the work. If you rely on someone else, then you're going to put yourself in a position where you're beholden to someone else to get you paid. Remember, on large loss, we have to hold the keys to getting paid. Finally, assigning responsibilities. As the project manager, you can't do it all. On most residential jobs, a crew leader or a project manager can get all of the work done single-handedly, not a big deal. It's very important to understand you need to have a whole team underneath you that has specific responsibilities. Give out those tasks, hold them accountable, especially when it comes to documentation and paperwork. Make sure you have all of that on your map and make sure it's part of your checklist. You see on the left, there's only 3 boxes checked. The last box is assigning those responsibilities. If you don't do that, the job will be a failure. You will be overwhelmed and you'll be taking all the heat. Why would you want to put yourself under that pressure? You're a manager. You're not a doer on these jobs. You're managing the workflow and the efforts of others. So let's make sure we do that first and foremost, stay on top of it and have a plan. Guys, thank you so much. On behalf of Dick Wagner, I'm Bill Giannone. Thank you for joining us here at the Crest Network. We'll look forward to quite a few more of these presentations as we go forward. Thanks so much.